names in his rhymes cause his memories. We running through New York so you never leave. Strap my lungs then we puffin' through with that, right? We're giving them some stories, they come back like manic this, manic that, while you crawling to me. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're just going to be doing a video based on the common problems, rough running and misfires and loss of boost problems on the B47 engine, which is fitted to a lot of the new F series models. So we're going to go over quite a few things that control the boost and what can cause your boost to be lost, what can cause your car to misfire, what can cause your car to run rough. Now I'm going to go over the common problems and I'm going to show you what the problems are and what you need to be aware of and what will probably need changing if you're not sure of what's causing your problem on your car. So let's get the F series in and I'm going to show you what you need to look for. Okay guys, so the first one I've been noticing a lot of people with this problem is the turbo. The turbos for some reason are failing on this engine more than anybody's now. The turbo ends up causing a whistling sound and that's usually due to lack of oil. So I'd advise checking your oil because it might be that your oil's low and the turbo ain't getting enough oil, causing starvation and causing the turbo seals to blow and causing the turbo to whistle as well. So that's one thing you need to be checking for on these cars because it's a common problem. The next one on these is going to be the electronic actuator. Now, as you know, this is electronic for the wastegate on the turbo itself. So that will, if that ends up failing, you'll cause a lack of boost. Now this right here is the actuator, so be careful of that because as you see it's on the rod right there, but you can't control because it's electronic, it's controlled electronically. You need to be aware of that. If that fails, that will cause you to lack boost because as you know the computer opens it, but if it gets stuck you'll end up running on no boost or too much boost and it'll be bad for the engine regardless what way. So you need to be aware of that as well. The next one, which is apparently causing a common problem, is these Dpf sensors. They're starting to go out because obviously the Dpf is regenning too much on a lot of cars because people are using it on short trips, causing the sensors to go bad. Now when the sensors go bad, the Dpf won't regen. What will happen is your Dpf filter will end up clogging up, and if it clogs up you end up with a rough running engine on cold startup where the Dpf filter is blocked and it can't regenerate. As I said to you, it uses an active and passive regen. It knows when to regen itself. It also uses back pressure as well on the back of the exhaust to detect when it needs to regen itself. So it's something you need to be aware of on these, that if you're getting rough running symptoms when you first start your car, it's usually due to the Dpf system. It's not to do with anything else. But like I say, check everything. I always tell you your best friend is ISTA with these cars because ISTA is the software which BMW recommend, and obviously it's what is good for these cars being a new car. Now as you see here, you've got the Maf sensor, but you've also got the air intake temperature sensor, but you've also got the Maf sensor up here, which is the manifold absolute pressure. Now all of these sensors around here and up there all work together. This one reads the amount of air coming through the intake. This one receives the signal for intake temperature sensor. So for instance, this is the air coming from the turbo, so if it's hot or gone back cold. And the manifold absolute is the amount of pressure coming from both of them into the manifold itself. Now if the Maf sensor goes bad, that will cause rough running on these cars, especially on a diesel, and it will also can cause your car to go into limp mode because the Maf sensor is responsible for the amount of air coming into the intake as well as mixing with the turbo. So if this one ends up going bad, it won't be able to detect the amount of air coming in, and everything has to go through the Maf sensor on these. The air intake temperature sensor, that just reads the air from the charge pipe itself. Now if that goes bad, you won't be able to read the air, which again has an electronic throttle body on it itself, which in turn will slow your pedal response down. If it can't read the amount of air, you might end up feeling lagging or jerking issues from this, because obviously the throttle body will be acting funny as well because if that temperature ain't reading correct. The Maf sensor, which sits right up here, which is used on all cars, as the manifold absolutely reads the amount of pressure coming from all of the pipes into the intake itself, which goes into the cylinders. Now if that goes bad, that will stop your boost completely. That'll put you into limp mode because that sensor needs to read the amount of air that is delivering to each cylinder in turn for the firing order of the injectors. So another thing you need to check is your Maf sensor because it's crucial for these engines. If that goes bad, it could end up being detrimental to you. The next one will be your EGR. Now if your EGR clogs up, especially on these because they're all electronic, as you see the cooler running down there, then the EGR system itself going to the exhaust manifold. If that clogs up,
It will usually be because your DPF is clogged up and it's returning it all back through the EGR system, trying to burn it off inside the intake manifold. You will need to take this all off. There's going to be no way around it about deleting it. I wouldn't advise deleting it. Your best thing you can do is to try and sort it and clear out the EGR system. It doesn't look hard to remove it all on these cars. I don't think it's hard. Just make sure you do that, because I feel like these cars run excellent without it. Another thing you guys need to check is your AdBlue system. Now, AdBlue is a must. Don't try and avoid not using it. I know it's quite expensive, but when you work at the amount of miles you're getting before you've got to top up, it's worth it. The AdBlue is there to protect the engine and for it to run emission friendly, and obviously to clear the DPF system and help to regenerate the DPF system. By you getting rid of that, or not using it and just running on these without the AdBlue, will cause these cars to fail. So make sure you use the AdBlue system on them at all times. The next one will be the injectors, which sit under the engine cover, as you guys know. So you need to be careful of them as well. They're electronically controlled, and these are on a newer system than what the old M57 and the M47 were on. These are all computerized and they work together with the DPF and obviously all the sensors on the car. Now, if one of them start misfiring, you can put your hand up here and you should be able to tell which cylinder it is, which ain't that corresponding properly. Or you can take your engine cover off and probably pull one of the connections and it might be able to tell you as well. These are all common symptoms that will occur on these cars. It's just something you have to address and deal with effectively. Now, as you'll see all down here, this is the main system that controls the whole boost of the car. You've also got your turbo pipe coming here, which runs off the air intake duct straight to here, and then your intercooler pipes. Make sure you check these for splits, because they will probably split as well, which is going to be common. As the years go on, they will end up splitting. So if they're split, make sure you take them off and check them, because they are known to split, and they probably will still split. They're rubber hoses, they will deteriorate and split on their own. As you know, down here there's another rubber one down here which goes to the intercooler. Make sure you check them, and make sure you check all your lines going around the back of the engine here. As you see, this is the engine electronics box. Be careful of that. The engine electronics come inside here, so that's another thing you need to be aware of. Don't jet wash the engine, don't do any of the sort. I mean, if you bought the car and you know it's been jet washed, be aware of that, because if it's been jet washed, it will cause problems. As you'll see here, this is the fuel pump right there, which runs all the fuel straight into the engine. It's all connected up at the back there, so you need to be aware of that as well. There's your fuel lines right at the back. If you're going to take them off, just make sure you check them and make sure fuel's coming through if you need to check them properly, and to make sure the pump's actually sending fuel. Oil filter housing is there as well. They like to leak sometimes. I haven't really seen it much on the diesels before, but on the petrols I know it's common. This one looks the same as the M57. There was a big oil filter housing, just normal on them. I believe you've got a crankcase breather up here as well, which I believe is so, because I can feel it. So you're going to want to change that as well at some point in time. They like to fail. If they fail, it will cause excess pressure to go back into the crankcase and blow your crankcase apart, and also destroy your turbo. So be sure of that. They might not need changing now, because BMW revised the part many years ago, and I think they've learned their lesson from that, from the M57 engine and the M47. So I don't feel like they will fail. Just be aware, guys, that every part on this car is electronic. Parts will be expensive. They're not going to be cheap at all. These engines are probably going to carry on. The more reliable they are, even if little components are failing, providing the engine internally and failing, BMW will carry this engine on, because turbochargers, EGRs, electronics will fail. Providing the engine carries on being maintained and it carries on its reputation, BMW will keep this engine in production for a long time. So you guys have to be aware of this. Parts will be expensive. These are all electronic sensors. As I said to you, it's an electronic flap here for the manifold, exhaust manifold, which opens the exhaust manifold for the turbo, as you'll see there. So you need to be aware of that as well. You just need to be careful of these right here. As you know, these are banjo bolt fitting, so you need to be careful with them. As I say, apart from that, guys, you know, it all looks good, the engine on this, and like I say, I feel like it's a solid, reliable engine. But if you do get problems, these engines aren't hard to diagnose. You just got to check them thoroughly and properly. As I said to you, IST is your best friend, but the majority of the time you could usually tell what the problems are. Like I say, these run emission friendly. These are Euro 6, so there will be a lot of emission problems on this car. So it's something you have to be aware of and address immediately to stop any future problems. So if you find a problem with your DPF, rectify it. If you find a problem with your EGR, rectify it. If you find one of your sensors out, don't keep driving with it. Don't leave it unplugged. Rectify the fault now. Otherwise, it will come back and bite you in the arse later. Okay, guys. So the next one is the registration of the DPF and the starter motor and all other parts on these kind of cars now. Now, as you know, with these cars now, you have to register every new part on this car. So you can't just go and buy a second-hand part anymore and think that you can then just replace it with another part from another car. You can't do that anymore. BMW have changed the whole system, and now every part you buy has to be registered. And that even goes to the DPF, and that's to stop people cutting it off and then buying a second-hand one, because they want you to spend $2,000 to $2,500 on the new DPF system, and it also has to be registered to the car. Now, that goes for the starter motors as well. Down the back here, this uses the auto start stop feature, and as you know, this will wear out over time doing that, stop starting, and it also has to be registered to the car as well. So the best advice I can give you is, if you get one of these cars, to code out the auto start stop or take it off, because it will damage your starter motor. So it's best you get rid of it before it does that. Otherwise, you'll be forking out on big costs for a new starter motor all the time for these cars, and it's not worth it. And you need to register every new part on these cars. The car will end up costing you a fortune. As I said to you, this is why you need to have the software, because you can't just get away with just replacing any kind of used parts anymore. You need to register them all to the car, and I believe that's for the majority of sensors on the engine. All parts need to be registered on this car to make them run and to make them work. Without registering them, the part will not respond, and it needs to respond with all the control units. Therefore, guys, like I said to you, these cars, you really do need ISTA. Cheap scanners are not going to be able to do what other scanners can do, so just make sure you get ISTA, because if without it, you will not be able to buy no parts, because you'll be at the dealers all the time having to register a new part to the car. Okay guys, so there you have it. I've now shown you the common problems on the B47 engine. These problems will always remain being problems. They're the same as any other diesel engine, just this one time it used all electronic actuators and sensors compared to the older M57 and M47 engines. These cars have moved on, as I've said to you, they're all using computerized and electronic sensors. So you're going to expect more problems and more expensive problems, but the problems will always be the same. The DPF will clog up. It just goes by the person who's responsible looking after that car at the time, who bought it, and if they looked after it. As I've told you many times, many people that buy BMWs don't care about it, because if they can afford to buy this new, they have a lot of money, so they don't care. They just get rid of it, pass it on, let the next person fix it. That's the way they sit and go and buy another one. They don't put money back into the car. So when you guys get it, these are the problems you're going to be faced with. So I'm just trying to explain to you what the common problems are and help you out. These will be the common problems. I know this for a fact. I've seen hundreds of people already with the turbo whistling on these engines, so it's already a common problem. People already have engine running problems, which is usually due to running low oil, because a lot of people driving it in sport mode constantly. A lot of other factors to it could be they've hit a sump, could be many things. These engines could be burning oil. Nobody knows it as yet. These engines are still new, but these are the common problems that are going to come up. The actuators will probably stop working, and you have to be careful of that, because it can also damage your turbo or stop your turbo working. Just be aware of these things. Make sure you use the AdBlue system. BMW put it there for a reason. If you use that, it helps burn off the DPF clear a lot cleaner, and also it clears it out quicker because it's a liquid that mixes with the diesel. Just make sure you use the AdBlue system. Your DPF should give no problems. It also helps stop the EGR getting clogged up and keeps the ports free, and will stop your valve sticking, because if your valve sticks, you'll lose power. You don't want to be doing that on a diesel. I hope you've enjoyed this video, guys. If you have enjoyed it and you ain't subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. This is BMW Dr. Dean here. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.